All right, let's jump right in. Just picture this for a second. It's maybe 10, 15 years from now. A robot quietly glides into your living room with your morning coffee. In a hospital down the street, another one is assisting in a delicate surgery, and another is helping your grandmother get around her house. This isn't sci-fi anymore. This is right around the corner. But as these humanoid robots start to walk among us, we are facing a design challenge that is unlike anything we have ever seen before.
Think about it. For the last 20 years, we've gotten really, really good at designing for screens. A smartphone, it lives in your hand, it never walks toward you, it never just appears behind you, and it sure doesn't decide to move on its own. But a humanoid robot? That's a whole different ballgame. It approaches you, it can look at you, it can stand right behind you, and it makes its own decisions about where to go. The design playbook we perfected for our phones, it's totally, completely useless here.
And that's the big shift, right? This is the crucial point. We're not just designing a user interface with pixels on a screen anymore. We are literally designing social behavior. We're asking a question we've never had to ask before. How do we, as humans, and these robots, perceive, interpret, and react to each other just by existing in the same room?
So, to even begin to answer that, we need a brand new playbook. And look, this goes way beyond just making robots easy to use. This is about designing the fundamental rules for how we can all live together safely and comfortably.
This new playbook, this new discipline, is being called Coexistence UX. And it's exactly what it sounds like. It's the design of every experience that happens when we and robots are sharing the same space at the same time under the same sort of social rules. We're suddenly dealing with concepts that screen designers barely had to think about. Things like gaze, personal space, emotional safety, and reading intent.
Okay, so how do we actually do this? How do we put it into practice? Well, we can boil this emerging field down to 4 really practical design principles. You can think of them as the basic rules of social etiquette for robots, a toolkit for actually designing trust from the ground up.
Let's start with the very first rule. And let's look at it from our perspective, the human one. To feel safe around anything, doesn't matter if it's an animal or a machine, we have this deep, almost primal need to answer one simple question. Can I pretty much guess what it's about to do? And that, right there, is principle number 1, predictability. For us, any kind of unexpected movement is automatically read by our brain as a potential threat. So a robot that moves or turns or even speaks without any warning, well, that's just inherently alarming. We are hardwired to see movement as intention. So how do you design for that? Well, it gets pretty specific. The robot should always preview its motion. It should turn its head and its gaze first, then move its body. It needs a smooth, consistent rhythm. And it should just say what it's about to do, like, I'm going to the kitchen now. You see, this isn't just programming movement. You're literally programming reassurance. Predictability is the language of trust, and without it, we can never, ever really relax. Okay. On to the next one. You know that feeling, right? When someone stands just a little too close when they're talking to you? It creates this instant, almost physical feeling of discomfort. Our robots need to understand that feeling.
This brings us to principle number 2, respectful distance. There's a whole science for this called proxemics, which is really just the study of personal space. We all walk around with these invisible bubbles around us, right? An intimate zone, a personal zone, a social zone. And when a robot barges into the wrong zone without permission, our brain's alarm bells just start ringing. It creates immediate discomfort, sometimes even fear.
And you can see just how specific these rules have to be. For a normal conversation, a robot should probably stay about 1.5 to 4 feet away. If it's just idle, kind of observing, it needs to be further back, more than 4 feet away. And here's a huge one. It must never approach silently from behind. At its heart, Coexistence UX is about answering that question. How close is close enough?
All right, let's keep it moving. Imagine a robot in the room with you suddenly whips its head around and just stares at something behind you. What's your immediate reaction? You're on alert. What did it see? Why did it do that? See, we don't just need to see what a robot does, we have this deep need to understand why.
And that leads us straight to our third principle, intent transparency. This is all about making a robot's internal thinking readable to us. It's about bridging that huge gap between just seeing the robot do something and actually getting what it was trying to accomplish.
So how do we pull this off? Well, the robot can use its whole body, its gaze, little gestures to signal its intent before it actually acts. It could ask, "May I help you with that?" before it reaches out.
You could even make it sensor scanning visible, with a subtle head movement or a soft glow from its eye LEDs. These little cues are what translates its digital brain into a language our human brains can understand.
All right, our final principle. A humanoid robot isn't a tool you use once, like a hammer that you just put back in the toolbox. It's going to be a recurring presence in your home, in your office. You're actually going to build a relationship with it. And what's the foundation of any good relationship? Consistency.
And that is principle number 4, relational consistency. Think about it. If the robot's tone of voice, or its walking speed, or just its general vibe changed wildly from day to day, the relationship would feel unstable, untrustworthy. That consistency is basically its personality, and it's what provides stability.
In the design world, this means you have to define a very clear persona for the robot. Is it a helper, a guide, an empath? And for each of those personas, you lock in a consistent voice tone, gaze height, and walking speed. You're basically creating a stable character that people can get to know and over time learn to trust.
So, there you have it. Predictability, respectful distance, intent transparency, and relational consistency. Now that we've laid them all out, let's kind of zoom out and look at the bigger picture. Because this is so much more than a friendly design checklist. This represents a fundamental shift in our relationship with technology, and getting this right or wrong is going to define the next era.
So, to just recap it all real quick, the entire framework boils down to this. Predictability is what builds our trust and sense of safety, respectful distance is what creates comfort, intent transparency gives us clarity, and relational consistency, that delivers emotional stability.
And this brings us to a really crucial and maybe surprising final point. In this coming age of humanoid robots, the race isn't going to be won by the company with the strongest motors or the fastest computer chips. Nope. The real competition, the defining battle, is going to be for our trust. The companies that master this soft science of coexistence UX, they're the ones who will lead because they'll be the ones we feel safe enough to invite into our homes, our hospitals, and our lives.
I want to leave you with this final thought. For decades, user experience designers were given screens to work with, little rectangles of glass. But humanoids, they're giving designers something infinitely more complex and important: our entire lives. The scale of this, the stakes, and the sheer responsibility, they're all about to get a whole lot bigger.